I'm the company. I've been with the company since 2015, so I'm like very dinosaur compared to everybody else here at Core. I've worn lots of different hats over the past nearly 10 years, and currently I'm the Chief Digital Growth Officer. Um, what my group and my team have been doing is really targeting the SMBs. So generally and historically we only focused on large enterprises, but then we felt that the smaller businesses should have the same kind of access to technology that large companies have. So here we are. Mike, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Mike Pietrowski. I'm an innovation architect at Kore.ai on the East team. Been with Core 4 years, and prior to that, I came to Core as a customer. I was at Royal Caribbean, and we put Kore.ai on one of the largest passenger ships ever built.
Hi, I'm Elizabeth. I'm a software engineer at THK America. As a company, we primarily do manufacturing of like sub-machine parts. So we figured out how to turn rotary motion, like from ball bearings, into sliding motion. So our parts are in rockets, they're in medical devices, all those sorts of things. I personally, like I mentioned, I'm a software engineer. I'm the primary developer on the THK side for our use case bot. I also build some internal applications as well.
Good morning. I'm Carla Garcia, the founder and CEO of My Plan Keeper. And I spent 20 years working for the big banks and investment firms, helping people plan for their future, obsess about their future, and even myself, obsessing about the numbers. And I created My Plan Keeper to streamline retirement, bring financial literacy available for everyone, and continuity as well, so that leveraging smart technology to tackle the big global crisis. So we are now in the US and hopefully global as well. Yeah. And I'm a startup. I actually been on a journey on this startup, and Core was my first partnership. And we can share more about that.
Yeah, so we have a startup program under which companies like Carla's can get 75% off of the license fee for the first year. And then we also try to build with them. So hence Mike, he's my savior when it comes to building for our customers. So we build, we do training. So even the building, we try to do very, very cost effectively, because again, as a startup or as a small business, that cost sometimes of implementation can be really high. So we try to be mindful of the resources that the SMBs and startups have. Elizabeth, so THK is a Japanese company.
Yes.
Was there any kind of cultural or inner sort of challenges you dealt with before you went into your journey for conversational AI?
So the way that we're structured is somewhat unique. Some of the other attendees here, like NTT Data, have a similar setup, but we are one division of a holdings company. THK Japan, which is where our headquarters is actually a separate company. This gives us a large amount of independence, and so because of that, we didn't have to overcome a lot of the resistance that Japanese companies are known for in terms of developing or adapting to new technology. But even so, our use case actually involves AI already. It's a completely separate form of AI related to monitoring parts when they're in use in manufacturing facilities. So we're less resistant than most. So it was relatively easy for us to start moving in this direction.
And Carla, what brought you to think about AI? Why?
I'm a non-technical person, right, building this technology company. And I started the journey of building the vision, what I really wanted to do, understanding my customers, until my son tells me that about ChatGPT. It was, I believe, like a month after it came out, and I started using it, and I must have gone to sleep at 4 a.m. every night for I was just fascinated. I felt AI, it's transformational, it's magical, and a lot of people that have experienced that are speaking about it, but I believe until you don't use it, you don't, unless you use it for like emails or something. But I truly saw the transformation in me, the ability to bring creativity, the ability to mentor me in so many areas of me building a startup. It was just the solution in what it could do for my company and for the people that, because we're consumer centered.
And so can you talk a little bit more about how you're using conversational AI for your startup?
Yes, of course. The biggest solution that I want to bring to people is them feeling understood. People go for financial advisor to employer plans, and you leave an employer plan and you try to figure everything out in your financial situation, your health, and it's really hard to know that you're on track, to feel that you are actually that you can, all your questions are being answered. So when I thought of using artificial intelligence and conversational AI, my goal is to really be there, answering questions, providing the literacy, and also listening to the consumer so that they can ask the same question over and over again. And then I take it a step further and bring the empathy part of it.
How are you bringing, what does that mean, empathy?
Empathetic AI, and this is something I've learned. I'm an empath, and my relationships with my clients were deep in a sense where I understood them. I seek to understand how they felt, why they felt the way they did. And artificial intelligence, you can actually build artificial empathy into the models. That allows a way of recognizing how the user is feeling, recognizing the emotions, the tone of voice, the questions asked, then understanding it at a deeper level, like why is it happening, so that the response is not just an automatic from the knowledge base, for example. So it really brings personalization, and it brings that connectedness to the consumer. Because when I was using, I've used different since they came out, I knew when I felt understood, and perhaps it was the way I was prompting, and the responses back, I felt like that sense of emotional connection. It's really fascinating.
Yeah, no, and I think a platform does a really good job having that empathy. So I don't know, I would love to hear, maybe if you have time, what you guys are trying to explore a conversational AI for. But Elizabeth, what are you guys doing with?
So, like I mentioned, we're mostly a manufacturing company. We deal in physical products that go into machines primarily, but not exclusively. One of the products that we have, currently just in Japan, but we're preparing for the North American launch, is an IoT product. So just to briefly go over what that is, it's a network, in this case, of sensors that we hook onto the parts either that we manufacture, or we can hook it onto our competitors as well, to monitor them for damage, wear, tear, how efficient they're running, that sort of thing. The readings are taken a handful of times a day, and then the results are sent back to our proprietary AI, and it says, hey, part AC1, you need to expect to replace this in 3 months. There's a 2-month lead time, would you like to order it now? Or, hey, this part over here failed unexpectedly last night. Here's what we noticed in the time leading up to it. You should inspect this immediately. As you can imagine, that's a very different product from, seismic tables that isolate servers from earthquakes, or from sliding parts in a rocket. And so we need to be able to educate not only ourselves, but also our consumers on our product, what it's capable of, these sorts of things. And so we're creating essentially an FAQ conversational AI, primarily targeted at engineers and people who need more technical details. We have a series of requirements for it that include things like multi-language support. Because we are a Japanese company, we have a lot of Japanese customers. We also need to support English natively, and we need it to be precise. We need to be able to build it out separately because engineering is sufficiently technical and narrow focused. We also need it to be able to be extensible. We need it to be able to reach through email, through web, these sorts of things as our use cases grow with this particular product as our AI expands. We need to optimize employee time so that more simple questions can be answered more automatically. And we need it to be able to handle out-of-scope questions because some things are just really complicated and they're highly subjective to your use case. And we need the AI to be able to say, we need more information from you. Can I redirect you to a person who might be able to help you more efficiently?
So when you were evaluating Core, we were on a lot of phone calls, and she was tough. What other competitors did you look at?
So we looked mostly at competing technologies. We've decided pretty quickly that generative AI by itself was just not going to be an option. Even setting aside the more common concerns like hallucination, like response time, we needed very clear precision, and it needed to be based on what we were given primarily from the experiences in Japan, because the North America team really doesn't have any experience in handling this kind of product, so we didn't necessarily know what to anticipate from our customers. These days, with some of the new products that Kore is producing, we might have been able to get away with like a custom GPT, but that just wasn't a realistic option for us at the time. We also couldn't do our own build out. Our IT team is very small. Because we're a North American division, we don't have the manpower of the main Japan branch. So it just wasn't feasible for us to build it out ourselves, either time, money, resources. One of the things though that sealed the deal for us was that Kore does both low and no code. I have a background in data science, and so for me to be able to go in and customize and code exactly what we need to get that technical specificity that is required is great, but to also have someone without that experience go in and build out the Japanese side of the bot independently, and be able to transfer what I've done was also very important for us.
Got it. So why Core at the end of the day?
Primarily because of the customization. A lot of other companies that are out there, they don't have the ability to do any low code. They're primarily no code. They're targeted at developers who aren't necessarily in IT, which is great for their use cases, but for us, because we're working on such a technical level, and because we have such a small, we can't take someone from engineering, for example, and have them build out a bot. We just don't have that kind of capacity. And so for someone technical to be able to go in and do it themselves was really important for us.
And Carla, other than ChatGPT, did you evaluate anybody else?
I did. Anyone here a startup? As a startup, I was learning on my options. I was educating how I can get that step of actually testing the technology. I started myself through OpenAI. I tried different chat-based, different companies where I could deploy my bot. Then I realized there's a lot more than actually training the assistant and then deploying it. I even tried Azure, right? So I tried the independent side. Okay, how can I get it built because my funds were limited? And then I started talking to developers. Lots of developers, a lot of options. I had a lot of proposals. I still needed a lot of funding. But I found that there was a disconnection between the developers understanding they wanted to jump to developing my product, and I knew that my intuition told me that the best practices that I was missing a lot. Then I found Core. Coming from a big institutions, being a financial advisor with licenses, compliance, privacy, security, it's important to me. So that was the first light bulb, like, wow, they could take care of this. So that was important. And the developers I needed too many multidisciplinary teams, and it was more of that intuition and trust. So I saved a lot of money because I didn't develop, and I can tell you about it.
That was actually one other thing for us as well, was the security. We were very interested in making sure that none of our data went into another model. None of it would get exposed to customers, because we handle not only our own intellectual property for our own parts, we handle a lot of custom builds. So we handle our customers' intellectual property as well. So we needed to make sure for our own liability that went nowhere. And that's was something the Core could provide for us.
Awesome. And Mike, what would you say about your work with them both?
I'm very, very happy, first of all, that they chose Core and gave us the opportunity to work with them. And it was great seeing all of this come to light, and seeing things start to gel and work out. So that was really gratifying to see them succeed.
So where are you right now in terms of your implementation?
So for us, we're currently in first round testing, alpha testing for those familiar with the term. I've gotten some feedback this week. We're hoping to close that time frame at the end of next week. So far, the results have been mostly positive. A lot of what I've heard back has been from our third language build out, which was not part of our initial requirements, which was Spanish. And so it's been really helpful for us to just see that the results have come back so positive from particularly that side where we didn't have any native speakers developing the bot. So we're hoping for a release date sometime mid-May to early June, but we'll see how that times out because it's partly going to depend upon the release of OmniEdge to North America.
And Carla, what about you?
We actually developed the Grace, my bot, and we've been working on it while I'm raising fund. We actually did a POC, which a lot of developers wanted to go straight to an MVP, and so we were working on a POC, which was really transformational for the company as a startup. And now I recently got funding, and so we're looking to start implementing, going now to the next level and testing it out, building the next phase.
So this is Joe.
Hi, Joe.
You found him. Sorry about that confusion.
That's all right, no problem.
So Joe, can you just give us a little bit of a background on yourself?
Sure. So I've been in account receivables for about 2 decades, and just trying to make a positive impact. This industry affects millions of people annually, so I wanted to see how I could make a change. Up until very recently, it was pretty much impossible to make a reasonable change, and then I started looking at conversational AI. Started talking to Core, and was just blown away by their team and their offering. So now our goal is to reinvent debt collection and help millions of people end their cycle of debt and be better off financially.
So can you talk a little bit more about how you're going to make debt collection better?
So we're creating a bot named Eva, and Eva's whole purpose is to understand in a very empathetical way why the person is behind and what they need in their life to be better off financially. And then we'll connect them to a partner network, whether it's for mental health, physical health, auto, employment. Just through the conversation and being empathetical, Eva will understand what each consumer needs and help them be better off, and always be there if they have questions, follow up. So we're not just focused on resolving the debt. We want them to be better off financially, and we'll always be there for them.
So who else did you look at other than us?
I think I looked at almost 15 different companies, and for my first call with Core, I felt very comfortable. I didn't feel like I was being pressured into any type of commitment. It was really Core's team was trying to understand what I needed and what I was trying to accomplish. So it was very refreshing. I didn't feel, because I was a startup, that I was getting very little attention. It was quite the opposite. From day one, I felt like I was getting the attention from everyone on the team, and really they understood what I wanted to do. And I can honestly say that we wouldn't be where we are and where we're going without Core.
And in terms of the implementation, where are you now?
So we have an MVP. We received our initial funding in large part due to Core's help. Michael especially was there for a lot of calls, a lot of weekend hours to get our MVP over the finish line. So we have MVP, we have 2 signed clients, and we're going to start implementing actual conversations with Eva within the next 90 days.
Awesome. So apparently we're amazing as a platform. What are some of the challenges that you guys have, encountered?
So some of the challenges for us, a lot of them were very specific to our use case. for example, we got our FAQ question list from Japan, and we found that OmniEdge is a blanket name for 3 different products. There's one that will track parts that rotate, like the device that turns the magnets in an MRI machine, one for sliding motion devices, and there's a third one for tooling, so cutting edges and that sort of thing. Engineers are going to be asking similar questions about these products. They all want to know, where can I use product A, product B, and product C? And those may be different answers. So we initially had put everything into the Knowledge AI, which is typically what you do with FAQs. But that particular product is not designed to handle branching answers for the same question. And so what we ended up doing was we built out a separate dialogue tree for every single question that was like that, which fortunately there weren't too many of them. And we then would have the user, if they asked the particular question, like what temperature can I use this system at, it would say, okay, do you want the product that is for linear motion devices or for tooling? And then we could redirect them to the correct answer from there. One of the other issues that we had that was helpful when we brought in the technical support for the people who helped build this out, both at Kore and with a partner, Elevon, was that there was some highly technical things that, as an IT person, I frankly didn't understand. And there were some language ambiguities as well. For example, most of our questions were originally, like I said, from Japan, and there was a question about where we could install this IoT system. And the word for facility and the word for equipment in Japanese was the same. And so the question was what facilities are suitable for the installation of this product. And the response was about what systems you could install it on. And so we had to work through a lot of those things, and that required some coding solutions. It required some increased product understanding and those sorts of things. One of the other major things that we came across was we had, like I briefly mentioned, there are some questions where we just can't answer it through a bot. They're too complicated. For example, depending upon where you are, your export procedures might be different because right now this product is primarily shipping from Japan. And so in those cases, a bot can't handle that unless we know where they're shipping to, what kind of a place they're installing it at. It's just too complicated for an AI at this point to handle. For our company, and so we've built in an email redirect to say, hey, we need more information about your use case. Would you like to help us? Would you like to draft an email? And that has so far been very useful in solving for that particular problem.
Anything that you've encountered
With
R, like trying to get something done, implemented?
I am embarrassed because I'm all about empathy and I'm all about I design these conversations and I feel that they're going to go a certain way, but learning the sentiment analysis, learning where it's just, it's too much empathy, can we reduce the empathy? So that's one of the challenges, but that's more designing, and we're now in the POC, right? For me, as a startup, it's not having like a conversational expert and the expert, which I know now you can provide, as we move to the next step. But that's just little challenges on the design of how I wanted to interact the conversation. A challenge, another challenge, I definitely, I'm in a stage where it's we did a POC, right? It's, I will say the latency, right?
Yeah,
so
you can mic up at night.
For Mike, the support I've gotten, there's a lot of challenges in a startup and building a conversational AI. Challenges are just daily, but as I learn more about the industry and learn more about my challenges are everybody's challenge, right? We challenge the latency, but we're dealing with financial information. We're dealing with consumer, it's not just coming from like a knowledge base, right? We're very conversational and outside of just answering questions. So the latency, there's a reason for it, right? We're using the voice, but it's everybody's challenges, and that the way that Mike has, over time galore, he's been amazing helping with the challenges. I must say, I don't have an infrastructure, like I don't have a software. I'm operating like I have this big company product as I'm building, but implementing and deploying when I just have a web page was a challenge. And we started with the omni-channel. We were going to deploy in different channels, but I didn't want a chat box to come out. I wanted to be personalized. I wanted to look like a static page. And that was one of the challenges at the beginning, and we made it happen, and it gave me a lot of clarity into how I want the software to work. So it worked out.
Awesome.
It definitely worked out.
Joe, what about you? Any challenges?
Zero challenges. Smooth sailing. Similar to Carla, we're trying to design a full conversation, so not so much FAQ. So that's a lot of it is, I don't have a technical background, so I'm trying to express how I feel these conversations are going to go and where there's so many twists and turns and how to properly respond and be empathetical. So trying to get that across in a technical way, I feel like it's two different languages, and but Mike has been amazing. The whole team has been very patient with my non-technical explanations for how to get it done, and somehow they've been able to do it. So the biggest challenges are just going from answering questions to having full-fledged conversations. So it's still early for that, but the fact that Core never batted an eye at that's what I wanted to do was another reason I was really happy to work with your team.
Awesome. Mike, anything from your end? Like you've had some major issues that maybe they don't even know about, but you had to.
Right. Well, I think like latency is one like Carla was talking about. You might have seen the Goldilocks slide, and I think most people fall into that category. Found some customers that don't, but mostly they do, and so kind of staying in that zone has been one of the challenges. And I think what's kind of interesting is we're seeing customers come to Core that have had kind of a background like both you explained. You worked quite a bit with ChatGPT, Elizabeth as well, and so that's kind of colored the expectation as to like where we have to go and kind of the starting point in the table stakes. So I think that we're seeing I would say fairly sophisticated customers, and we have that internal problem right? They think that a PLG customer might be one or two facts or something like that, but the use cases I think are quite sophisticated as well. Crazy sophisticated in fact.
Yeah, I think the smaller companies and especially the startups, their use cases are just so innovative because they're trying to do something very different. And so other than a large enterprise who has trying to cut costs or just improve my customer experience, they're really trying to change the world. So it's exciting to work with them.
And I must say as well, we're getting this technology to consumers that are actually interacting with ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude, and the responses are fast, they're good. You're like, it's different, especially the voice. So I started with the voice with ChatGPT, and I love the voice that it had. I would tell her to change it if can you adjust your voice? But it was a different experience. Me as a consumer, now I realize it's not the same when you're actually deploying it with privacy measures. There's a lot of multi-steps, but now I see it everywhere. I don't know if you call the hotel, but there's latency in the response from it, and it's really the expectation to the consumer. Hopefully, that's a part that I guess everybody's going to challenge because it does have a different than using what the consumers are used to.
So other than the Excel platform, which is automation, are there any other products that you guys are using that Core has?
So the primary one that, in addition to the Excel platform that we've been using is Search Assist. I'm very excited for the upgrade to Kore.ai because one of our two uses of the platform of that service is to analyze our user manuals. The previous version of Search Assist didn't have the ability to extract images or tables from PDFs, which was very difficult for us, again, partly due to the technical nature. You have to be able to see the diagrams, you have to see how to put the steps in place. And it just wasn't reasonable for us to try and break out only the text sections and then somehow set it up to send to an image in an outside server and then tack that all together before we send it to the end user. And so I'm very glad that that is something that has been added to the new Search AI. We've run into a couple of difficulties we're still working through, but like I said, I'm thinking that with all of the changes that have been released this week, such as being able to break it up more custom, our documents, such as being able to control the web searches more finely and the web crawling, I fully expect that those issues will be resolved.
Carla, your voice, right?
I'm voice, but I'm also, we're using the Plaid integration, for example. We are integrating the user's account so that my conversational AI can actually talk to you about your numbers, help you understand, and also help you build strategies to achieve your goals. So that integration, to me, it's fascinating because I can do it in-house, and I value templates. Templates are there because templates work, and having a marketplace with templates on the financial side, on travel, for example, there's a lot that we're exploring to really take our use cases and have something unique by leveraging what you guys already do well.
So we use Smart Assist quite a bit, so that helped us a lot. I believe I was on a call with you and I was explaining, I had to look at all these different companies for our inbound, outbound, and just said, why are you doing that? We have Smart Assist. So it was great to see that there's so many offerings and can continue to grow with Core. So Smart Assist has really helped us streamline our process of inbound, outbound calls, and then sending the transcriptions out so that we can actually start to really make use of when to interject or when to have a response, and then really test the response, see how it's working. So Smart Assist has been great.
I guess I'll open it up to any questions you guys might have. Anybody?
We use voice as well, but can I ask, and one I can say we both use your voice, so can I ask which voices you use?
Oh.
Is it Microsoft Azure or are you using other?
So we use Azure, but we're starting to use 11 Labs for the voice. It's
What is
just
it?
11 Labs.
11 labs.
Yeah, they have really, really high level voice, and we like it because it gives us a lot of options. Our goal is to ultimately start to have some sort of statistics around which demographics like certain voices, and then be able to tailor our initial outreach based on that. So maybe 20 to 30 males from a certain state, only like a female voice, and then we can tailor it that way. So 11 Labs is great, and then Azure, of course, is very good as far as connecting the dots.
Carla?
I would say 11 Labs I found has very great voices and in different languages as well. I really like for me it's my favorite, but as a startup, we went to use Google Voice, which it's something that a challenge I had, and Mike was able to actually dive in and help me find the best voice because we couldn't use 11 Labs yet. And then we have it in Spanish. And so we're using Google Voice for Spanish, which is just not great. But it's there until, we build and fun. But I would say 11 Labs has been, for me, the one that I found.
And are you transparent with people about the fact they're speaking to a digital assistant? Because I know some people are not. They try to be very humanistic. But are you actually saying, hey, I'm a digital assistant, here to help you?
Yeah, so for our use case, beyond just the compliance, we feel that this is a unique use case where people don't want to talk to a human.
Yeah.
A lot of industries, it's bridging a gap of, I want to talk to a human, but in this case, it's a great fit. No one wants to relive this. So the fact that they know they're talking to a very empathetic AI, it gives them an opportunity to kind of take a breath and just kind of not have to relive it to another human and work through it in a better way.
Mike, do you have any?
I think from a course standpoint, we've had a great increase in the number of voices we're supporting, like you're hearing about 11 Labs. We've got some others. It seems like we're at a kind of a rapid adoption for some of these other voices. Historically we had a more limited range, but now we're able to do more, which is really, really exciting because voice, that's what we learned first. We learned how to speak before we could read. We learned how to have conversations before we did apps. At least most of us did anyway. I'm not sure that's so true anymore, but I think it's really important for the empathy. The voice, adds another dimension, very definitely, to the whole experience.
Okay. Anybody else?
I have a question. So for Carla and Joe, both of your products are dealing with certain, you talk about empathy aspect, right? So in your case it's a senior citizens or older people, and in your case it's not more stressed out people. What's your experience in, how do you think that people will be open for chatbot, intelligent chatbot, of course, to answer their questions, and what's been the experience so far?
That's a great question. That's a great question because I worked with pre-retirees, retirees for 20 years, and building this technology, there's some mixed feelings on. They say baby boomers are not gonna wanna, they're not gonna wanna use this technology. And so as I know exactly who my consumer is and what they need, when it comes to actual age, for example, I'm going to give you something powerful that happened that perhaps bring like not answer the question, but I have a 73-year-old client from the bank that I still, after I left, I still help him, and I was at his house not long ago, and I'm telling him about what I'm building in the company. Now he's had multiple identity theft problems, and he cares for his mom. When I told him about the technology, I thought he was going to be like, oh, what about the privacy? What about this? His answer to me was just fascinating. He's going to end up being my first customer. He said to me, he understood, we went through the things that Grace could do for him, understanding the Medicare, right? He's been dealing with Medicare for so long, and he still calls Medicare all the time to understand both his mother's benefit and his, same with Social Security. Questions that are just, he asks me all the time the same questions. He asks me about his income. He's a very savvy investor. And he said to me, okay, so if through our meetings, Grace would have been listening, and then I'm able to interact with her and revisit our conversation or ask questions that perhaps were not part of the conversation, but they're there because they were in my mind. He said to me, wow, so then I wouldn't feel so lost. Like, he actually said to me, like, I would not feel lost. And he's like, Carla, it's not your fault because you're great and you answer my questions, but he feels 73, very smart, afraid of computers, and he wants to try my technology. He said, I'm going to be your first customer. This sounds amazing. And he knows, he doesn't know everything that I can do for him. So it's a developing question. We will know as different companies deploy this and as different companies see the use cases. Like I'm doing research, and I'll let you know. Exactly. I'm passionate to see what that will be. But don't be afraid, and don't assume that the consumers, the older generation, are not going to take it well. I think we will see as we go.
Joe, what are you?
So we're taking kind of a unique approach to where we feel that there is going to be some sort of adoption issues depending on the age. And a lot of it is the same thing that you're seeing with scams and everything else. So some of the older generations might be hesitant, but we're trying to build this to, we know we're early with the approach of a full conversation, replacing live call center agents, but our goal is to basically take the incoming wave and the younger generations that are used to financing everything online and dealing with some sort of online chat or email. I mean, you can go online and get any type of loan without ever interacting with a human at this point. So that is becoming normal. So basically, we're going to ramp up, and as that becomes more normal, if they fall delinquent, this is going to be very much normal to them. They're not going to feel awkward not having a human in the loop. So kind of like a tiered approach, we have the voice, but we feel that not only from a cost perspective, but just from a time to resolution, the voice is ultimately going to be a smaller percentage of our interactions, and the chat feature is going to be the mainstay.
And I must say, I do use Core's. I worked in banking, and Core does this for these large institutions. So perhaps it helped me tell my client that for me, he knows that that's important, and I'm using a company that does it for the bank already. It's how do I get that message to users to feel more comfortable, but I feel comfortable because exploring other options. The data's out there. I feel that I feel confident because I'm using their enterprise solutions that the bank I work for uses.
So
Josh, Core, question for you. You could pick your top one or two pain points you feel like Core solved for you. What would you say for each of your cases?
I'd say a lot of it was just, as a startup, being able to express to clients and investors that we had all the technical backing we needed to make them feel comfortable with this new approach. So that's always a hurdle is this just an idea? Who's on your team? What is behind this? So knowing that I could put them on the phone with Mike or anyone, and they're not gonna have an issue or a question that's not going answered. So our initial CTO is very, very leery of new companies, and he talked to Mike, and it was one of the first times he was impressed with how the company was built. So that was a huge thing out of the gate for us.
So for us, I know I said at the beginning that compared to a lot of Japanese companies, we're relatively forward. We're moving into more digital products. Except the AI was developed in Japan. That's not something that we did here. That's not technology that we use here yet. And so finding a company, like you said, that has been there for a while, that knows what it's doing, really helped push our approval of this use case through. Because what was originally in mind, and what might seem more sensible to a lot of people to resolve our use cases, why don't you just put up an FAQ page, right? Maybe put a search bar at the top. But for us, at least I've found that it doesn't really work well because the page is so long after a while. Our main product page, for example, has 400 questions on it. And that's just, it's not searchable very easily unless you know exactly what you're looking for. It's not end user friendly, it's not employee friendly because we have to put all that time putting something together that people aren't going to use. And so for us, first of all, having a company that's willing to go with the idea and say, hey, AI makes sense in this case, was very helpful because a lot of companies, I feel, wouldn't even take up the project. They'd say, well, just put a search bar on it and be done. And then the other point is because the company has been established, because we can show use cases, we can show smaller companies who work with them, it was much easier to put in front of our executive team and say, hey, we can use this in this use case. We can use it as a pilot to push us more in the digital transformation direction that our company is trying to move in anyway. And that this is a good investment and a good start for us.
I have a lot of pain points as a startup, and they solve a lot of them with the technology part of it. But one that it's profound because it's what I'm solving for, it's confidence. Confidence just solves so many problems, and as a startup building artificial intelligence for consumers, it's a technology that's going to change a lot of lives, but it's a technology that also it's going to alter a lot of things. So my confidence level on what I was doing, in the conversation, it wasn't just like, oh, I'm confident because they're going to do it. It's through our working together and developing. It's just I feel more confident. Now Gail came out. I'm like, oh, I feel that I can get it done. And confidence, it's what everybody wants. All the companies want confidence. So it brought my confidence, and I know that I'm going to bring confidence into my consumers.
Awesome.
That was it.
Thank you.
Any other questions out there?
I have one.
Yeah.
This is a really interesting application use case. What channels are you using with Kore? Is it multimodal? And is this part of a larger strategy to use things like computer vision for diagnostics?
So right now we're mostly focusing on web integrations. For our initial launch, we're going to have an icon in the corner of our OmniEdge website that if people have a technical question, they can ask. And there's a disclaimer at the front, say, hey, this is what I'm mostly intended for. Over time, hopefully we'll be able to expand, our bot also named Grace as it happens, to cover customer service questions about the product as well. In terms of multi-channel, we do have a phone tie-in that exists. We're not currently utilizing it, partly because the launch hasn't happened yet, but frankly also because I'm not sure how many engineers are going to call into our line to ask a question. I think our line is mostly used for sales and customer support, which is not really our target demographic right now with our AI. Like I said, we do have email tie-ins as well. We don't really have a live chat yet. That is hopefully going to be in the pipeline within the next 6 to 12 months probably. I'd like to set that up. So it's in the process. It's in process.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. I know it's one of the last sessions. You guys are done.
I know. Thank you for being here.
Have a great weekend. Thank you guys.
Thank
You're
you
awesome.
so much.